All right, today I'm going to show you how to bake multiple textures into a single texture file for Roblox. The problem is, like, say if you have one mesh and you have different, each mesh has different textures to it. Roblox only lets you upload a single texture ID, so it's hard to if you have a part with different images in it, like Roblox won't let you separate it if you have a single mesh, because sometimes you might want to make a hat or something where you have to have a single mesh, like a special mesh, and you're only allowed one texture file. So I'm going to show you how to do that real quick with Blender 2.91. That's what I'm using. So I have this phone right here. What I did was each part or object has different textures to it. I joined it already, as you can see. It's just a single object right now. But what I did before that was, like, I made 3 different materials. So you can see, like, the red is the base for the phone, black is the little stopper thing right here for the dial, and then the actual dial itself is white. So there's 3 different texture files. So after you make your textures, you assign it. You combine or join all your meshes into a single mesh, and this is how we bake it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go down here. See, I don't know if you can see where my little cursor becomes like a dragger, so I can, move it up and down. But I want to hover over it, and I'm going to right click it, and I want to do a vertical split first because I want to make the separate the windows, right? So once I do a vertical split, I go back down, and then I right click it again, and then I do a horizontal split like that. So now that way I have different views. So if you go up to this top option, the editor type, I'm gonna open up a shader editor, and I'm gonna press N on this one so I can get rid of that. I'm gonna zoom in, and then I'm gonna change this bottom one over to a UV editor. Okay, so once I have those set up, I'm going to open a 3D Paint 3D program. I'm just going to do this because I'm going to create a texture. This is going to be my master texture, right? This is where I'm going to put all those images into this single image right here, so that way I can upload this one to Roblox with all my materials in it. I'm going to come over here. I guess you could do this in Photoshop, but I'm going to make it a transparent background like that. And I'm going to change the width to 1024 and the height to 1024. Okay, I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna call it BND. I'm gonna write over that. I don't know why I did that. I'm just gonna make it a blank canvas. So, all right, so now once I have that file, what I want to do is come over to my materials here, and see, you can do this when you're in the material properties. I have my object selected, object mode, everything is selected. So the first thing I'm gonna I want to change this dial color. So if you come over here, you're gonna see how the base color is white. If I change it to, see how it changes. This works for images too. So if you have like an image right here, it's gonna be the exact same process. So let's just make this color with how I want it. Give it. Okay, like that. So now what I want to do is, in this shader, I'm going to go to add, and I'm going to go to texture, and I'm going to go to image texture, and I'm going to, and it just drags around, so I'm going to click here. I'm going to open the image that I created, this BND, because this is where I'm going to bake to. I'm going to bake to this texture, this material, into this BND PNG. So once I do that, you see how the box is white? It's like outlined. That means that it's active and selected. And that's what you want to do. You want to make sure before you bake it that it stays white, that it's selected. But what I could do right now is copy this, and then I'm going to come over to the red material, because this is the white one or the blue one. I'm going to do the same thing here, but I'm going to paste this in because what I want is I want to capture this material and add it to the same one, right? The BND, because the white one has it, now the red one, and then now I'm going to do it to the black one, the little stopper. Paste it. So see how it's outlined white? I'm just going to double check to make sure that's the one that's selected. Okay, so once I got that, so now I'm going to come here into my object mode in the 3D view, and I'm going to go into edit mode by pressing tab, and you're going to see all this crap is overlaid and jumbled or whatever. Don't worry about that. Just come into edit mode and then make sure that everything is selected. Doesn't matter if you're in faces or vertices. I just make sure that you select everything. Once you do that, press U, or you can just come over here, and then all we're going to do is do a smart UV project. Once we do that, the only thing you want to worry about is this island margin. Change it over to 1. And then make sure you scale it. Give me 1 second. Alright, sorry about that. Okay, so basically you just make sure your island margin is set to 1 and make sure that correct aspect is on and scale to bounds is on. Press OK. Alright, so now if you can see down here, the little map has now, your little islands, your little parts are all separated properly and not overlapping. So don't worry about if what that looks like right now. What we want to do now is actually bake this. So if we come over to the render options, this little TV looking guy, you got to make sure that you're in cycles and come down to baking. Okay, so you want to bake type to diffuse, and then you want direct and indirect unchecked, and then color is checked. Okay, and then once we do that, let's just press bake, and you're gonna see the little progress down here. You may have some parts here like lights and all that stuff. If you press bake, it's gonna say that it's not part of the object. Just make sure that your object is the only thing selected. So your camera, your lights, and all that is unselected. So now, if you can, looking at here after it's baked, you can see that the blue dial is blue, the red is red, and the black parts are black. All right, so we're just gonna save this image, and then I'm gonna open it real quick so you can see. If I come over to documents and I open up this BND file, see how it separates it out? Okay, so now here's the part, because most people read tutorials and watch, and they try to wrap it, or upload this to Roblox, and then it doesn't come out right. It starts spreading it. We're not done. So once we've baked it, we have to apply the texture. So if you noticed, remember how you have these 3 different color materials. So now, let me go into object mode, make sure it's all selected. I'm going to delete these now. I'm going to delete the materials, right? So there's nothing. What I want to do now is press new, because now I'm going to assign this object with this map, right? So add an object, or add a material, a new material, and then come over to base color and press this little, I guess, yellow button next to it, and we're going to image texture it. It's going to come out black because there's no image assigned yet. So we have to open the BND file, or where you baked it, that file that you just saved and baked. You're going to open it. And as you can see right here, if we go to spear mode, see how see how it takes it? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to export this model, and we're going to import it into Roblox so you can see how that part works. So what I'm going to do is, let me triangulate my model just to be safe. And then if I come over to the quad method, I'm going to go to fixed, because I know probably this model's all screwed up. I'm going to add another modifier called solidify, and I'm just going to apply that. And the reason I did this is because when I imported this model before, like some of the faces were gone, like it was coming out like missing parts. You know, it didn't look like this. This part would be missing, or the face would be missing, or like there'd be a big hole right here. So that's why I'm doing those two, triangulate modifier and the solidify. And then I'm going to decimate it, because my triangles right here are 17,000, and then Roblox only lets you have 10,000. So if you don't have, this doesn't turn up by default. So what I do is, if you come over here to this show overlays option, press the little down arrow, and then you turn this button on statistics, and it'll tell you what your triangle count is, so that you can keep track of that while you're working. So now I'm going to add a decimate, because I need to bring this down to 10,000, because Roblox won't let me import it. So I'm going to just put it down to half. All right, that's fine. That gives me 8,500 triangles or whatever. So now in object mode, I'm just going to come over to File. I'm going to export to OBJ. I'm just going to name it test, like that. And I'm going to limit to selection only. I have the whole thing highlighted. And I'm going to export it. So now that I have it exported, I'm going to open up Roblox Studio, and we're going to import it. Sorry guys, I have to update this. Oh, man. Alright, sorry about that. I just let it loaded. So now I've opened up a place, and you want to make sure that it's published, because we're going to need to import the mesh. So if you come over to view, then you want to do asset manager, and then know that we can import. It says bulk import. And we're going to go to the test that I just made. And why not? Just to be safe. Alright, it's been imported. Fine. So now just double click it. And you can see it already comes in. It already comes in colored. So if I just move it up, and if I rotate it, you'll see that the textures was applied. So if it doesn't, then what you want to do is just come over to view and go to your properties, and your texture ID is the one that you saved. That's that BND one. That's where where you exported it. Yeah, and there it is. So as you can see, it's a single mesh, one mesh file here, and your texture ID, you have multiple colors or multiple images within the same object. So that's how you do it.